Hi, in this session, I'll talk about the disaster recovery option in Azure. And when it comes to the disaster recovery, wherein we want, if one of the region is completely down, you want all the resources to be provisioned in the other region. For that, we can leverage Azure Recovery Service, which is also called ASR, Azure Site Recovery option. So in this scenario, I'll talk about I just have one VM which is basically created in central India, and when there is a disaster, I want these VMs to be provisioned in the UAE North. Okay, so if you actually see, this is the virtual machine, and I will also show you the VNet. This machine is part of. This machine is part of the VNet UAE Central, which is I'm sorry, Central India, and these are the subnets I have. The VNet is part of this subnet, and this is Bastion. If I actually show you the connected devices, this is the VM, which is this. I have also added this VM in a load balancer as a backend pool, so that I can actually show you at the time of failover what all things are actually going to be failed over, and what all things we need to do it manually. Okay, so if you actually see, this is the backend pool for the VM. Okay, now there is something called recovery service vault in Azure, which basically provide us the disaster recovery scenario. So we can go ahead and create a recovery service vault. Uh, One thing that you need to be ensure that the recovery service vault should be created in the region where you want the resources to be failed over at the time of disaster. So if I want basically my resources to be created in the UAE Central, uh, then or UAE North, then I need to basically ensure RSV 4. I need to ensure my recovery service vault, which is RSV 4. Let's suppose it should be created in UAE North. Okay, I cannot basically create it in the same region where I have the resources created. So it has to be in a different region. So for a redundancy option, these are the option for the RSVs. This is the encryption option, and this is the vault properties. This is the networking option, and this is tagging, review and create, and then you can actually create. Okay, so just to save time, I have already created this RSV in the UAE node. Okay, once you create a recovery service vault for the replication, we need to basically, so just a scenario. Okay, let me just draw a scenario. So I have a virtual machine. This is basically in the central India, and at the time of disaster recovery, I want this to be basically created in UAE North. Okay. Now for this to happen, we need to create something called a recovery service vault, and this also needs to be created. Recovery service vault. This also used to be created needs to be created in UAE North, so that at the time of disaster, this can be failed over here. Okay, so when we create this, we need to basically enable the replication. So this I have already created. Now inside this, I'm actually creating a replication. So there is something called replicated item. We need to go here, and we need to create what do you want to replicate? Azure virtual machine, physical. These are the options that you can replicate. Okay, I've created the Azure virtual machine. So it says source. Where is the source? The source is uh, Central India. This is the source. It talks about which resource group. This is the resource group. This is between the available zone. I said no. We will just move next. Okay, now it is basically not giving you the machine option here to pick up. Why? Because I have already created a recovery service. So if there is another VM, then it would have actually given me the option to basically pick that VM. So I will actually show you. This is the machine that I have actually created. This is a replicated item that I've created, and if you actually see here, this is in central India, retention policy, and target location is UAE North. Okay. Now, when you basically create this, it will basically start replicating the VM to this location. So if it will also create a uh, resource group with the same name, just like this is my VM resource group. It is just appending the hyphen ASR at the end. Okay. Now inside this, you will see it is actually replicating the disk and a VNet. So if I go here, so when the enable replication, and what it will basically replicate, it will basically replicate two things here inside the RSV, VM disk and VNet. Okay. Now if I actually show you the VNet, it is actually basically creating exactly the same VNet here with the same side space, which is 16. If you actually see, it has appended having ASR at the end. Okay, it has 172.16.0.0/16 option, and if you actually see my actual VNet, this is the actual VNet 16. Okay, generally it is since it's gonna be exactly the same in that particular scenario. Uh, I mean, you cannot obviously do the appearing and other stuff. Okay, so I'll just do a test failover just to show you how exactly it looks like. Okay, so I'll go here, and this is replicated item. And once the replication completes, so for replication to work, there is basically an agent which gets installed in the VM automatically. Okay, I'll just show you the agent extensions. And this is the agent, which is site recovery agent, site recovery windows. Okay, we need to ensure that the provision for this is actually succeeded. It was actually failing for me, and why it was failing? Because the VM was not able to go online. This VM was not connected to internet. That's the reason the installation was failing for this again and again. So if I just try to access this VM, we allow this and connect. So I'm just going to show you the agent which gets installed when you enable the replication within the VM. Okay, post CPL. So this is the agent, okay, which was not getting installed earlier. How exactly I fixed this? Basically, I had the internet issue. This VM was not able to reach to the internet. That's the reason the installation was failing for me. So two things, two actions I have actually taken. First, I have created a NAT gateway, and I have, this is a NAT gateway I have created, and this NAT gateway I have attached to the subnet, and I have attached it to the VM subnet where the VM is provisioned. After that, the VM started going online. After that, only the machine started going, able to communicate to the internet. And once the internet started working, the agent installation completed successfully itself. Also, in some occasion, if you might need to go ahead and allow the NSG rule for the HTTPS. So I'll just show you. This VM has the network security group attached. This is the NSG, and I have created the outbound rule to allow port 443. Okay. Now I'll do a test failover, and you see what all things are actually get it. So there are basically two options. One is basically a test failover or complete failover. Failover will basically create a VM, and then it will basically not delete or power off the old existing VM. Whereas the failover will power off the existing VM. So I'll just perform a test failover first. Okay. It is basically telling me to pick up the network. I'm just picking up this network. It says it is recommended that the network selected for test over failover operations are different. Okay, whereas in our case it is actually the same, but it is giving the warning, but still the failover will function. So I'm performing a failover here. Okay, the failover started. Now what you will see is that right now I just have only one VM. There will be one more VM created, which is VM1 hyphen a test, because it is basically a test failover. And then you can connect to the VM and then you can check. But in order to connect to that particular VM, we also need to ensure that the bastion is there, and by default, this test will also not basically do any kind of modification to the load balancer, because this VM is also defined as a backend pool to the load balancer. So this test will not do any more. It doesn't make any difference at this scenario because the IPs are same, but in general, we need to basically take care of these all needs to be documented during the DR drill if you are performing. Okay. So I'll just wait for the VM to be provisioned here. Let's wait. Also, we can see here site recovery jobs just in case. See, test failover is in progress right now. Now you can see the test failover has created this particular VM in the UAE North. It is actually creating. Okay. Now, once the testing is done, you can come back to the replicated items and you can basically disable the replication. So, but I'll just wait for this to complete and then we can disable the replication. It will automatically delete the test VM. So this is the option with the test failover. All right, now as we can see, this is the VM which is basically fully created and in a different region. This is UAE North, and this is this up and running. I cannot connect to this VM because I don't have a bastion created in this one, and unfortunately, this replication did not. This is basically the VNet it has automatically created with the same CIDR. But if you actually go to the subnet, you won't see bastion subnet getting created. So bastion is not getting replicated with the ASR. This subnet is, so we need to be just creating this manually. But I would recommend instead of doing a failover or picking up the existing or rather basically picking up the same subnet or getting the subnet created through the recovery service world, it's better to basically create or pre-provision your VNets. So for now, what I'll do here, I will basically uh, do disable, clean up test failover and testing completed. This, okay. Now, once this is done, this VM will be automatically removed. And what I'll do this time, I will basically create another. I will pre-provision a subnet in that particular region, and we will try to provision this VM in that particular subnet. Okay. Okay. So now I have created a VNet in the target region. I'll quickly show you. This is my RG, which is RG DR site. It is created in UE North, and I have already created a VNet. Uh, it's not created yet. Let me refresh. Oh, VNet is already created. LBRG. Oh, sorry, I think I've created the wrong one. Let me just see. It's created on LBRG, not in the LBRG. I'll just recreate the VNet. Okay, so now I have created a VNet in the UAE region. You can see that. And this is actually utilizing a completely different address space, which is 170.16 address space. Overlaps with the address space. VNet Central India. Let me quickly cross check. VNet Central India. Oh, okay. I think I need to again change this to something else. Okay, so now I have created a DR2, which is on a completely different address space, 192 address space, and there is already a subnet created under it default. So I will be doing the replication here. So this is the same recovery service vault which is created in the UAE North. I am going to uh, enable the replication on this one. So virtual machine. Now it's asking about the enablement of the replication. So it is Central India. This is my source, and the source is on this VM. I will move next. This is the VM I have. I will move next. It's asking for the target. So target is UAE North, and this is the DR region, and virtual network. Okay, so it's asking about failover virtual network. Okay, I can use this, or I can create new one, or basically I can use my the existing one. So I'm going to use my existing one. It's asking about the subnet where I want to fail over. I'm going to use this one. Okay, and availability option, capacity. I will move next. Retention policies. Allow ASR to manage. I will move next. And I will enable the replication. So once this is done, we will see that how the failover is actually functioning and whether it's able to update the other things or not. But one thing needs to be aware is that the bastion will not fail over. Bastion is something we need to be created in advance. Plus, it is always recommended to basically create a VNet on a different address space on the target region and then utilize that. So that is what I'm utilizing in this particular demo. Okay, so we'll just wait for this to be created, and then after that we will basically enable the test replication. So at the moment this replication is in progress. Once this is completed successfully, then we will perform the test replication.